Have you ever been blindsided by the very people you loved the most, at a moment you thought was meant to celebrate you? I was standing at my mother's birthday dinner, at a vineyard I paid for, when I got a group text from my own family. The message was short, cruel, and clear. You're no longer invited to the weekend getaway. You make things about you. I froze, glass of wine in hand, smile half-formed, trying to process the humiliation. My mother hadn't said a word. My sister Karen just sipped her Chardonnay and avoided my eyes. That's when I knew this wasn't accidental. It was a performance. One that everyone had rehearsed but me. And if they thought I'd cry quietly and back down, they had no idea who I'd become. My name is Jessica Martin. I'm 38 years old, a litigation strategist in Austin, Texas, and until that night, I truly believed I was the anchor holding my family together. Not because they said so, Lord knows they rarely did, but because I showed up. I paid, I planned, I patched things behind the scenes. I carried the invisible weight of keeping everything and everyone intact. So when my mother asked me to organize her 65th birthday dinner, I didn't hesitate. She loves wine, so I booked a private room at Glenrose Vineyards. Rustic wood beams, fairy lights, the kind of place that makes everyone feel like a photo shoot. I covered the catering, the transportation, even the little lavender centerpieces she's always loved. $4,000 give or take. But it wasn't about the money. It was about celebrating her. I arrived early that evening, wearing the dress she complimented last year, the one she called classic. I helped the staff with place cards and double-checked the vegetarian options for my cousin Miranda. Guests started trickling in. Smiles, hugs, the usual. Even Karen hugged me, lightly, like someone trying not to smudge her makeup. It wasn't until the tiramisu came out, her favorite, that my phone buzzed. A group text titled, Family Getaway 24. I opened it casually, expecting flight updates or a cute meme from my niece. Instead, I read, Hey Jessica, we've been talking and we think it's best you skip the family weekend. It's nothing personal, you just make things about you. Hope you understand. My brain short-circuited. Was this a prank? I looked up, scanning the table. No one was looking at me. Karen was laughing at something my uncle said. My mother was daintily spooning her dessert. I scrolled up. The message was from Karen. The others, Mom, Uncle Ron, even little Alana, had liked it, reacted with thumbs up. Suddenly, my fork felt too heavy. My breath caught in my chest. I had paid for this entire event. I had driven 2 hours to this vineyard, chosen the venue, managed every RSVP, and now they were icing me out of the one thing I'd actually been looking forward to, the weekend I had booked the lake house for months in advance. It wasn't just exclusion. It was betrayal. Premeditated, coordinated betrayal. And here I was, sitting at the table like an idiot, smiling, pretending. Do you know what it feels like to be disinvited from a family trip at a party you paid for? I excused myself quietly and stepped out onto the gravel path that circled the vineyard. The sun had started to dip, casting long shadows between the vines. My hands were trembling, not from sadness, but from clarity, because in that moment, I realized something they hadn't. I was done being their invisible wallet, their scapegoat, their reliable backup plan. They wanted me out of the picture? Fine, but they'd better be ready to pay the price. That night, I didn't cry. I know people expect tears in stories like this. They want the betrayal to break you. But me? I got organized. Back in my apartment, I kicked off my heels, poured a glass of tap water, not wine, and sat at my desk. I opened the shared family Google Drive, 55 folders. Everything from old holiday menus to scanned birth certificates, passwords, playlists, family reunion itineraries, all under my name, all paid for by me. Click, delete, click, delete. The shared calendar? Gone. The family budget sheets I had created to help mom feel less stressed? Removed. The car rental confirmations? The group itineraries for the lake house? Deleted. And then, with steady fingers, I canceled every single one of my financial contributions. The luxury SUV booked for the group? Canceled. The spa deposit? refunded to my card. I even called the lake house owner, explained I wouldn't be hosting anymore, and secured my non-refundable fee as a future credit. Because petty is one thing, legally smart is another. Then I composed a single text. Just one. Pay for it yourselves. I sent it to the family group chat. No punctuation, no smiley face. Just the raw, quiet elegance of truth. The reaction was instant. Karen tried calling. Twice. I let it ring. Then came the texts. Karen. Really, Jess? Mom. Jessica. This is not the way to handle things. Uncle Ron. Are you okay? Miranda. Bless her. Hey, can I call you privately? I didn't respond. Not yet? Because I wasn't finished. I opened a spreadsheet, titled it Contributions Breakdown, and began to list every dollar I had spent on family in the last 2 years. Bridal showers, baby showers, birthday weekends, reunion flights, graduation brunches, Mother's Day gifts that somehow had my name on them, but Karen signed the cards. I didn't do it to prove I was generous. I did it because I was done letting them rewrite the narrative. And the next morning, I woke up to silence. No apologies, no clarifications. Just a few awkward messages, and a longer one from Mom telling me I needed to reflect on how I make people feel. Reflect? Oh, I was reflecting. All the way to my next move. But before I could send my receipts, I had one more voice to hear. My phone buzzed around noon. A private message from Miranda, my cousin, the one who never picks sides. It read, I didn't know they were going to do it like that. Can I talk to you? And something in me, something soft but cautious, said yes. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. She showed up in a green hoodie and aviators, like we were about to trade secrets under surveillance. And maybe we were. I'm sorry, she said the moment she sat down. I didn't know they'd be so cruel. I raised an eyebrow. So you did know they were planning something, she sighed, wrapping her hands around her cup like it could protect her. It was my idea. The getaway. I thought it'd be nice to do something a little more relaxed this year. Less structured, I repeated, letting the words sit. I told them I just wanted chill vibes, no itinerary. But then, it turned into this weird therapy session where everyone started bashing you, saying how everything gets too Jessica-centric, like seriously exaggerated stuff. Did you defend me? I asked softly. She looked away. Not really. I didn't want to get dragged into it. That was Miranda, always the Switzerland of our family. Neutral, untouchable. But in that moment, she looked wrecked by guilt. They basically used your name as the reason to make the whole trip about excluding you, she admitted. Even Uncle Ron went along with it. It was like some collective groupthink, like, if everyone agreed, then no one had to feel guilty. My throat tightened, but I didn't show it. They were looking for an excuse to turn on me, I said. And you gave them one, she nodded. Yeah, and I'm sorry. The apology was honest. Not enough to undo the betrayal, but enough to light the fuse. Because now, I wasn't angry. I was activated. I didn't expect peace. But I also didn't expect a voice memo that afternoon, barely 24 hours after I pulled my funding from the trip. It came from Karen, my sister. The one with a gift for weaponizing cheer. It was just over a minute long. And the subject line, Wow, Jess, boundaries much? Already had my blood simmering. Still, I hit play. Because you can't fight what you haven't heard. Her voice floated through my headphones like honey soaked in poison. Jess, I just wanted to say, giggle, I'm proud of you actually. You finally learned to say no. Boundaries are healthy. Sure. Yours came out in the form of canceling everything and throwing a tantrum, but baby steps, right? Another giggle. Anyway, hope you enjoy all that empowerment while we're sipping wine without you. Cheers, sis. Click. That was it. No apology, no curiosity. Just that smug, syrupy smugness she'd perfected since high school. Karen was the kind of person who called cruelty jokes and labeled humiliation just teasing. But this wasn't a joke. It was a dare. And I'm not the sister who backs down from a dare. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I opened another app. My alumni chat, an informal network of people from our old university. Most of us stayed friendly over the years. A surprising number were family. Karen had practically curated half the group herself during her networking queen phase. I uploaded the voice memo. No caption, no comments, just raw audio. Let people hear for themselves. Let them decide who the villain was. Within minutes, my phone lit up. Reactions poured in. Angry emojis, shocked faces, a few quiet WTF texts. Some came from friends of hers. Some came from old mentors. And a few came from within the family itself. Even my great-aunt Louise chimed in. Louise M. That voice note is appalling. Jessica, I had no idea. I'll be reconsidering my attendance at this so-called family weekend. The room suddenly shifted. Because Louise wasn't just any relative. She was the elder matriarch. She'd chaired every reunion, signed every birthday card, hosted every Thanksgiving before my mother took over. Her opinion meant something. And now, she was siding with me. I felt it like a ripple, power bending ever so slightly back in my direction. But I wasn't done. Later that evening, as I sat reviewing receipts for the family invoice I was planning to send, I got a message from an unexpected name. Ellie K. Karen's old college roommate. We hadn't spoken in years. Her message was short. Ellie K. Wow. Just wow. Karen sent that to you? After everything you've done for your family? Me. You heard it? Ellie K. We all did. It's going around. And honestly, good. People need to hear who she really is. I sat back. The sister who tried to paint me as dramatic was now exposed by her own tone, her own words. And this wasn't revenge. It was revelation. Because truth, real truth, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just undeniable. They thought I would fade, that I'd send a few bitter texts, cool off, and eventually crawl back, like always. What they didn't know was that I had someone in my corner who didn't see me as a fixer or a fallback. Her name is Sienna, friend since college. Now a financial advisor with a reputation for tact, truth, and titanium boundaries. When I forwarded her the voice memo from Karen, she replied with 4 words. Let's make them remember. We met at her office the next morning. She slid an almond latte across the desk without asking. She always remembered how I took it. Unsweetened, oat milk, cinnamon on top. You ready to dig? She asked. Let's do it. For the next 3 hours, we combed through every charge, every Venmo trail, every, let me just put this on your card for now, moment that I had let slide. The birthday dinners, the hotel deposits, the wedding venue for Karen's vow renewal. That had never happened, but I'd still paid the cancellation fee. Sienna was surgical. She created categories: travel, lodging, food and beverage, emergency family loans, event sponsorships, subscriptions, shared services. Then she did what I hadn't dared to. She totaled it. $18,760. That's how much I'd spent, out of pocket, in the past 2 years alone, on keeping the family machine running. Quietly, without thanks, without expectations, without ever realizing how easily that silence could be weaponized against me. I want to send an invoice, I said, staring at the final spreadsheet. Sienna raised an eyebrow. With interest or without? I smiled. Without. I'm not trying to rob them. I'm trying to remind them. She nodded and got to work formatting it. Header: Outstanding contributions from Jessica Martin, 2022 to 2024. Each section had itemized charges with brief, polite descriptions. Not a single drop of emotion, just facts. At the bottom, in bold, total outstanding, $18,760. Due upon receipt payment options, Venmo, Zelle, or certified check. We attached a copy to an email and debated the subject line. I wanted something honest. She suggested something unforgettable. We settled on, let's talk about fairness. The body of the email was brief. Dear family, attached is a breakdown of financial contributions I've made to shared family events and needs over the past 2 years. As I will no longer be covering collective costs, I'm requesting reimbursement for my past support. No hard feelings, just boundaries. Jessica. And then, we sent it. To everyone. Mom, Karen, Uncle Ron, Aunt Beth, even Cousin Alana, who still owed me $230 for that group cabin rental she ghosted me on last year. Then we closed the laptop, ordered tacos, and waited. By the next morning, it was wildfire. Apparently, Karen had forwarded the email to 3 cousins with a ranty preface. But all she did was spread it faster. Because soon I was getting quiet. Private replies. Aunt Beth, I had no idea. Thank you for your generosity. Cousin Mike, wow. Honestly, respect you for this. Uncle Ron, can we talk? But the best came from Louise. Louise M. I won't be attending the getaway. Not until Jessica is invited. And not until she's paid. Mike dropped. Suddenly, the very woman who never picked sides was choosing mine, publicly. And that was the crack in their fortress. Because when the matriarch pulls out, people start wondering what they've missed. It took Karen 2 days to retaliate. I suppose that's how long it took her to spin something dramatic enough to deflect the attention away from the invoice. She didn't call. She didn't text. Instead, she sent an email. Subject line, for everyone's awareness. A personal statement. She CC'd the same list from my invoice. Our parents, extended family, even poor great-uncle Neil, who still used a flip phone. Attached was a PDF titled, Regarding Jessica. I knew better than to open it alone, so I forwarded it to Sienna. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. She's playing dirty, Sienna said. And she's playing dumb. Karen had written a 4-page manifesto about how I had made her feel emotionally unsafe, citing years of passive-aggressive financial dominance, and claiming I had used money as a weapon to manipulate the family. She called me controlling, dismissive, even, quote, borderline abusive. It was so hollow it echoed. The document was saturated in Karen's signature style, just enough victimhood to appear fragile, just enough outrage to stir sympathy, and not a single actual fact. But she wasn't trying to be accurate. She was trying to distract, to flip the script, to paint the very woman who kept the lights on, literally, as some kind of fiscal tyrant. And the worst part? Some people believed her. The older relatives. The ones who remembered our childhood fights. The ones who'd seen Karen cry over things as trivial as running out of Prosecco. I started receiving cold messages. Maybe money really did go to your head. Family isn't a business, Jessica. But then, something miraculous happened. Miranda called. She didn't text. She didn't send a voice memo. She called. And I picked up. Can I come over? She asked. Yeah. 20 minutes later, she was on my couch, looking paler than usual, holding a USB stick like it was radioactive. I wasn't going to get involved, she said. But this crossed the line. She plugged the drive into my laptop and pulled up screenshots, chats, group threads, deleted messages she had quietly archived. All of it. Karen, planning the group text about disinviting me, laughing about how I'd probably fund the whole thing anyway because guilt is her love language, complaining that I was always one promotion away from becoming intolerable. But the worst? A message she had sent to Miranda just 3 days before the dinner. Jess is going to flip when she finds out. Don't worry, I'll frame it as a group decision. Let her spiral. That'll make her back off for good. I sat there staring at the words. Let her spiral. This wasn't miscommunication. This was sabotage. Premeditated. Coded in the smug confidence of someone who believed no one would ever hold her accountable. Miranda turned to me, eyes wet. I let it happen, she whispered. And I'm so sorry. But you're not crazy. You're not cruel. And you don't deserve this. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Then I forwarded the screenshots to Sienna. The next morning, Sienna crafted a brief, razor-edged reply to Karen's manifesto. A single email with the subject line, correction, timeline of events attached, was a PDF. No commentary, just a timeline, Karen's own words, dated, logged, irrefutable. We sent it to everyone, and then we waited. The silence was delicious. Karen didn't respond. Neither did my mother. But 3 other relatives did. Uncle Ron. I had no idea. I'm sorry. Aunt Beth. Screenshots don't lie. Great Aunt Louise. I knew something was off. I stand with Jessica. The tide wasn't just turning. It was shifting. And the people who'd once viewed me as dramatic were starting to see that maybe, just maybe, I had been restrained, because the truth wasn't just loud now, it was permanent. By now, I thought I'd seen the worst of it. Karen's faux victim press release, the family whispers, the refusal to own even an ounce of wrongdoing. But then the past came calling, literally. It started as an unknown number. Local area code. I let it ring out the first time, figured it was spam. But it rang again 10 minutes later, and something in me said, "Pick up. Jessica, it's Levi." I froze. Levi Carrington, college friend, former debate rival, currently the event manager at Stonehaven Lodge, the very resort my family had planned to use for the trip. The lodge I had originally booked before they uninvited me. "I hope this isn't weird," he continued, "but I thought you should know what's going on. I didn't want you blindsided." "Okay," I said slowly, heart pounding. "Talk to me." There was a pause, the kind that says you're not going to like this. "Well," he said, "your family just tried to put the final resort charges back on your card." I blinked. "Come again?" "They tried to claim the booking was originally yours, which is technically true, but said you were covering the full stay and the private chef package as a, quote, surprise gift." I got suspicious, so I checked the payment logs. He was quiet for a beat. "They hadn't transferred the booking. They just removed your name from the guest list and never updated the payment method." I stared at the window, trying to steady my breath. "They were hoping you wouldn't notice," he added gently. "I froze the charges, but it nearly ran. We're talking over $6,000. I thought you'd want to know." I thanked him, repeatedly, then sat down hard at my dining table, staring at my phone, as if it had personally betrayed me. This wasn't just emotional sabotage. This was theft. They weren't just trying to erase me. They were trying to use me, again. Let me pay for their comfort in absentia. I forwarded the call summary to Sienna, who was already halfway through crafting a cease and desist letter to my mother. The subject line? "Jessica Martin is not your wallet." But what hit me hardest wasn't the dollar amount. It was the premeditation. They had to log in. They had to think about it. They had to decide. Yes, let's let Jessica cover it. She'll never know. And what for? A weekend in a mountain resort. Spa treatments. Private chefs. Luxury without responsibility. On my dime. When I brought this up in our alumni chat, the same group Karen had once bragged in, one of her former friends messaged me privately. "She used to say you were family rich, emotionally and financially. That's why she never said thank you. Said it was just your role. My role. Like it was part of a script I'd never agreed to. The enabler. The financier. The scapegoat. But here's the thing about roles. You can step out of them. And when you do, the whole play collapses." I messaged Levi later that night. "Thank you," I said. "You didn't have to tell me. Most people wouldn't have." His reply was simple. "Most people don't know how to recognize the heroine in a family drama. But I do. I debated with her, Jess. And I watched you carry people who would have let you drown." The line hit me deep. Because for once, someone saw it. Not just the betrayal, but the years that came before. The years of quiet carrying. And now? It was time to lay every weight down. There's a kind of freedom that comes with letting go. Not in a poetic, abstract sense. I mean literal. Spine straight, sun on your skin freedom. The moment I hung up with Levi, I knew what I needed to do. If they wanted to erase me from their curated weekend of joy, fine. But I wouldn't stay quiet. I wouldn't stay home, stewing in betrayal and screenshots. I would throw my own family weekend. But this time, it would be with people who had chosen me, not tolerated me, not used me, chosen me. And I knew exactly who to call first. "Jessica, yes!" squealed Ava, my best friend since freshman year of college and a certified hurricane of warmth. "The beach house is open. My brothers were gonna flake on our annual cousins trip anyway. You can take the whole place. And I'm coming too." I could hear her grinning through the phone. Over the next 48 hours, the plan clicked into place. I booked Ava's family's beach house on Mustang Island. Spacious, boho modern, 2 decks, oceanfront. Then I created a private invite list. Maya, my old roommate, and now a pediatric nurse, with the energy of a Red Bull ad. Elise, my coworker, turned chosen sister. Noah, my neighbor, who once brought me soup every day when I had the flu. Carmen and Leo, the couple who let me crash their holidays when my family made other plans, and a few others who'd never once asked me for money but always asked me how I was. The group chat I created was titled Chosen Blood. I posted the itinerary like a real event planner, color-coded and everything. Friday, ocean picnic. Saturday, sunrise yoga, beach brunch, group dinner. Sunday, barefoot bonfire. When I hit send, the responses poured in. I'm crying. This means everything. I'll bring extra towels and the biggest charcuterie board you've ever seen. We deserve this. Meanwhile, the original family getaway began unraveling in real time. Great Aunt Louise had canceled her RSVP publicly. 2 cousins backed out after the screenshots. And thanks to Levi's intervention, they were now forced to rebook everything under Karen's name at triple the cost. Why? Because last-minute luxury bookings don't come cheap, and I wasn't footing the bill this time. The kicker? Their group had splintered into smaller pods trying to coordinate payments. My mother even texted me, of all people, asking if I still had the itinerary so she could rebuild the schedule. I didn't respond. I just posted the first story to Instagram, a panoramic shot of the beach, laughing faces, a floating caption in coral pink letters. Family is who shows up. Welcome to Chosen Blood. I wasn't hiding. I wanted them to see. That weekend, we danced barefoot in the sand. We shared stories. We toasted not to revenge, but to restoration. We weren't dripping in diamonds or sitting in spas, but we were free, unfiltered, laughing so hard my cheeks ached. And the most beautiful part? No one needed me to fund a thing. We split groceries. We cooked together. We took turns washing dishes. When Maya spilled rosé on the rug, she looked horrified and immediately started scrubbing. No excuses, no entitlement, just care. This was the family I deserved. On Saturday night, Elise sat next to me on the deck as the waves crashed in the background. You know, she said, watching the firelight dance across our group, they thought they uninvited you. I looked at her, puzzled. Yeah? But what you really did was uninvite them. Her words landed like thunder in a clear sky. I didn't just walk away, I rewrote the guest list. By Sunday morning, the group chat for Chosen Blood was a stream of sunrise selfies and mimosa emojis. But my personal inbox? Another story. That's where the updates from the other beach trip trickled in, sent by the most unlikely informants. Cousin Ava, who politely declined to attend but stayed in the loop through our grandmother. Uncle Ron's assistant, who followed me on Instagram and had accidentally forwarded me a mass email. Even Karen's ex-friend Danny, who sent a single glorious sentence. It's falling apart faster than her blowouts. Apparently, half the family bailed after Louise pulled out. The rest arrived to find overbooked suites, a chef who had canceled last minute, and a surprise credit card limit issue when Karen's emergency fund got flagged for fraud. The resort downgraded them to standard rooms. Spa reservations were wiped. The group chat imploded over who owed what. By noon, Karen was begging relatives to Venmo the rest before checkout. But the real headline was the voicemail I received that night from my mother. It came in at 11:43 p.m., missed while we played Cards Against Humanity by candlelight on the beach deck. At first, I wasn't going to listen. I'd saved myself the whiplash of her emotional acrobatics for over a week, but something told me this one was different. I slipped away to the edge of the patio, away from the laughter and clinking glasses, and pressed play. Her voice was low, not sad, not angry, defeated. Jessica, it's Mom. I'm sitting in this overpriced room, watching your sister cry because half the family left early, and your Uncle Ron threatened to leave a Yelp review. She gave a dry, breathy laugh, then paused. I don't know what happened to us. Another pause, this one longer. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe you're not the one who always needed to change. It wasn't an apology. It was a crack. A sliver of reflection through the concrete wall she'd spent years building. And in that silence, that brief flutter of honesty, I felt something shift, not between us, but inside me. Because this wasn't about vindication. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming space in a narrative that had always cast me as too much. Or not enough. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She hadn't asked a question. She hadn't offered a path forward. She'd only whispered through the wreckage, surprised to find herself inside it. The next morning, I stood barefoot on the beach, coffee in hand, watching the sun climb above the horizon. Behind me, the others were still asleep, faces soft, laughter echoes still hanging in the air from the night before. I checked my phone. No new messages, no follow-ups. Just one photo from Ava, me laughing on the beach, surrounded by people who made me feel seen. I posted it. Caption: "They said I made things about me. They were right. Finally." The Monday after the beach trip felt sacred. I didn't rush to respond to texts. I didn't check work emails. I just sat in my living room, quiet, barefaced, barefoot, drinking black coffee, and listening to the stillness like it was a song I'd forgotten I loved. But I knew something else needed to happen, something final. Not loud, not petty, just legal. I called Sienna. "I'm ready," I said. "I don't want this to be a fight anymore. I want it to be policy." She didn't hesitate. "Let's draft it." We called it a family financial waiver, a document outlining, in plain language, the terms of disengagement. That I, Jessica Martin, was no longer a financial participant in shared family expenses. That I revoked any assumed obligations, including but not limited to birthday gifts, holiday hosting costs, and group travel deposits. That my name, card, or credit would not be used, suggested, or assigned to any family-related purchases moving forward. That this waiver served not as punishment, but closure. We printed 2 copies, one for my records, and one that I sent, sealed, notarized, and delivered via certified mail to every household on the original group trip list. Inside the envelope, along with the waiver, was a cover letter. Simple, surgical, sincere. Dear family, this document is not emotional. It is not dramatic. It is simply overdue. For years I've covered costs, absorbed tension, and been asked to shrink in the name of keeping peace. I did it without question, without receipts, without resentment. But now I'm choosing something else. Clarity. This waiver formalizes my financial boundaries. There will be no more shared charges, assumed coverage, or "Jessica will handle it" moments. You're not just uninvited from my wallet. You're uninvited from the role you wrote for me without my consent. You're uninvited from me. Warm regards, Jessica. I sealed the letters, one by one. No tears, no rage, just relief. 2 days later, the read receipts came in like dominoes. Karen's zip code, Mom's, Uncle Ron's. Not a single reply, not a call, not even a passive-aggressive emoji. And that silence? It was the sweetest sound I'd heard in years. But the story wasn't over, because boundaries don't just end things. They begin things too. That Friday, I received a text from Miranda. "Miranda, they're spinning. Karen's acting like the waiver is, quote, a threat. Mom said she never expected you to go this far. But honestly, I think you finally scared them into respecting you. Me? It's not about fear, it's about facts. Miranda. Either way, I'm proud of you. And I'm staying out of the next family trip planning. For real this time." That weekend, I framed a copy of the waiver and tucked it into the drawer beneath my coffee mugs. Not out of spite, out of proof. Proof that I had finally chosen myself, not as a backup plan, not as the provider, but as a woman whose value was never conditional. They could still have their group chats, they could still tell their stories. But from now on, I wasn't part of them. I didn't expect peace to last forever. Not when silence can be a tactic. Not when people like Karen confuse quiet with strategy. So when my phone rang, with no caller ID, 2 weeks after the waiver, I was ready to let it go to voicemail. But something in me said, answer. It was my mother. She didn't start with hello. She started with breath, shaky, quiet, almost small. "Jessica," she said, "it's me." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. She filled the silence like she always did. "We got your letter," she said. "All of us did. Your father and I, we didn't think you were serious." "Not really," she laughed, soft and strange. "But you were, you are. And I think that's what scared us. I let the silence stretch. I didn't want to save her from it. Karen's upset, she continued. She says you've embarrassed the family, that you went public. I didn't go public, I said finally. I went honest. There's a difference. She didn't argue. Instead, she said something I hadn't heard since I was 12. I'm sorry. I didn't expect it to fix things. I didn't expect it to fix anything. But it didn't sting the way it used to. That ache in my chest, the one that throbbed every time I felt invisible, wasn't pulsing. It was quiet, she went on. We didn't realize how much you were carrying. I think we got used to it, took it for granted. And when you stopped, it forced us to look at what we'd done. Why are you calling? I asked. Because I miss you. I miss who we were. I don't know if we can ever go back, but I hoped maybe we could talk. Just talk. There it was. The first real ask. No strings. No requests for favors. No manipulations masked as invitations. Just a conversation. I told her I'd think about it. And I did. For days. During that time, other calls trickled in. Less dramatic. More awkward. Uncle Ron emailed an apology. Not perfect, but real. My cousin Grace sent flowers with a note. We saw what happened. You were right to draw the line. Even Karen. Yes, Karen sent a text. Just one. Karen. I went too far. You were right to push back. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to own it. I stared at it for a long time. There was no follow-up. No manipulation. Just that. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her. Because I was still learning how to protect myself. Remorse isn't always redemption. Sometimes it's just recognition. And that's okay. Because this part of my life, it wasn't about reuniting. It was about recentering. I started going to the gym again. Reading at night, without checking my phone. Planning a trip. Not for the family. Not for optics. Just for me. A solo getaway to Arizona. Hiking. Silence. Sky. One evening, as I packed, Miranda called. You're trending in our family group chat, she said with a snort. The consensus is that you've changed. I smiled into the phone. I have. Good, she said. It's about time. Later that night, I stood by the mirror, holding the envelope that started it all, the waiver, the one I'd sent out without expectation of response. I slid it into a file folder, labeled Freedom, and I felt complete, not finished, not resolved, just whole. Spring came in with a gentler wind than I remembered. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was me. I hadn't spoken to most of my family since the waiver. No drama, no big fallouts, just space. And in that space, something remarkable happened. My life got lighter. The silence wasn't empty. It was breathable. I hiked through Sedona alone in March. Red rock under my boots, sky so wide it made the past feel small. I journaled in a canyon, alone with only the sound of my pen, and wrote down one sentence I hadn't been able to admit aloud until then. I wasn't rejected. I was released. When I got back, I started something new. I took the money I would have spent hosting birthdays, planning retreats, fixing things. I invested it into a local mentorship program. Young women from fractured families who needed someone to believe in them without conditions. I showed them spreadsheets, budgets, boundaries, and I told them what no one had told me early enough. You don't owe people your silence just because they gave you your name. The letters from my mother still came, one every few weeks, handwritten, less polished, more raw. She never asked for money, she never asked to come back in, she just talked about the garden. About the quiet in the house now that Karen stopped visiting as often. About how she found a box of old pictures and realized I'd been smiling less than she remembered. I didn't respond to every letter, but I read them. I kept one taped inside my closet door, not because I forgave her, but because it reminded me that growth doesn't always look like flowers. Sometimes it looks like someone trying. Then came June. My birthday. I expected nothing. Truly. I'd unlearned the reflex of hoping for family surprises. Instead, I hosted a dinner. Just a small one. 20 people. Backyard lights. Homemade flatbread. A giant fruit tart instead of cake, because I still hated frosting. The guest list was made with care. Ava, Maya, Noah, Elise, Sienna, Miranda too. Yes, Miranda. She arrived last, with a shy smile and a potted plant she said was symbolic but low maintenance. I figured that's your vibe now, she joked, and she was right. They brought laughter, stories, inside jokes. No one asked me to plan, no one asked me to pay, they just showed up. Near the end of the night, we gathered around a fire pit. Maya raised a glass. To Jessica, she said, the only person I know who can burn bridges, draft waivers, throw a beach party, and still look like she's meditating under a tree. Everyone laughed. I did too. Because for once, they weren't laughing at me. They were laughing with me. I looked around at the faces illuminated by firelight. Chosen, constant, kind. And I realized this was the legacy I would leave behind. Not the family who called me difficult, but the circle I built from the ashes. The next morning, I posted one last video. Just me, no makeup, sitting in my backyard with sunlight in my hair and a cup of coffee in my hand. Hey, I said, if you've been following my story, if you've ever felt like the villain in someone else's family narrative just because you said, enough, this is for you. I held the mug up like a toast. You're not broken. You're just done being buried under everyone else's expectations. And if they say you changed, smile, say thank you. That's the point. I paused, then added, what's something you've uninvited from your life this year? Let me know in the comments. Maybe it's time we stop proving our worth and start protecting it. And then I smiled, soft, solid, and pressed post.